Mike, well, the big news in the Senate this week was the Senate trying to take steps to compete with China, turning the Endless Frontier Act into the remarketed, new named U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. The bill passed in the Senate yesterday. Senator Chuck Schumer coined it, quote, a once-in-a-generation investment in American science and American technology. Joining me right now is California Congressman. He is member of the House Armed Services Oversight and Agriculture Committees, Khanna. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. You've got to be feeling good this morning. You first introduced the Endless Frontier Act in the House. What are your views in terms of how this all played out in the Senate?
It's a proud moment for American democracy. We showed we're capable of doing big things, competing with China. This is a huge investment of the kind we haven't seen since the Apollo project in quantum computing and AI, in synthetic biology, to ensure that America will lead the 21st century. And I have enjoyed working with Senator Young, Representative Gallagher. It's truly been bipartisan.
That's wonderful. Now, there were a handful of senators yesterday who voted against it. We spoke with Senator Mike Lee on this program yesterday, and he said that it was, number one, fiscally and morally irresponsible. He said it crowds out the free market. It's an inefficient use of taxpayer resources. And he said as it was evolving, Chuck Schumer threw lots of new amendments in there to ensure that New York was getting productivity and manufacturing. Of course, that's his state. What are your thoughts about those, 40 or so senators who voted against it and who said that it fails to address our regulatory system, sir?
Well, I have respect for Senator Lee. We've worked together on issues, but here I just have a different perspective. First of all, Senator Schumer has insisted that a lot of the funding go to the heartland in the South. The idea isn't just to create tech hubs in Silicon Valley or New York. It's to create it in Indiana, Wisconsin. That's why you see Senator Young and others so enthusiastic about that this is going to distribute innovation. Second, and this is the key point, this is not picking winners or losers. This is making investments in cutting-edge breakthrough science, the kind that the free market just won't invest in, the kind that DARPA usually invests in, that gave us the lead in the Cold War, that made Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. So this is not some over-interference in the market. It's giving the market the tools to succeed.
Well, and also it's really important that the U.S. has a strong showing versus China, because this is another area that the Chinese Communist Party wants to overtake the United States in, which is really important. So I just throw that out there because we talk a lot about the competition and the adversarial moves from CCP on this program. But, Congressman, I want to get your take on big tech in general. You obviously represent Silicon Valley in a number of corners, and we've got this new Ohio lawsuit now arguing that Google should be treated as a utility. I want to get your take on this. What do you think about this? The case says that Google has a duty to provide the same rights for advertisements and product placements for competitors as it provides for its own services. Congressman, a lot of conversation about how dominant these companies have become. Your thoughts on this suit against Google?
Well, I agree that they're too dominant. I agree they need to provide every advertiser with equal opportunity. But I don't think the way to do that is to make them into a public utility. I mean, that would guarantee them a right of profit, and it would have an administrative board restricting their innovation. The way to deal with this is to make sure Bing or Yahoo or DuckDuckGo or their competitors have an equal opportunity, so that they don't have exclusive agreements, for example, for the iPhone. So we'd have to be nuanced about this. We want them to innovate. We want them to succeed. We want them to be open to all sellers, but we don't want to destroy the innovation system that makes America extraordinary.
But, Congressman, what about all of this censorship that we've seen recently? I mean, we did a whole show on Sunday, on Sunday Morning Futures, looking at Facebook and Anthony Fauci and these back and forth emails that the two had, Dr. Fauci talking with Mark Zuckerberg about information that should be taken down on Facebook. And it really had to do with the origins of COVID-19. And in retrospect, Facebook changed its policy. Months ago, it said we're not going to allow anybody to say that the COVID-19 escaped from a lab. We're going to take down any posts. And then, of course, these emails are released, and it shows that it was Dr. Fauci telling Zuckerberg, talking about the COVID-19 origins. And so suddenly Facebook changes its policy. And we heard it over and over again, right? I mean, it was Hunter Biden's laptop, and it was you're not allowed to say this and you're not allowed to say that. Ted Cruz was on my show on Sunday, and he said that this opens the door for people to sue Facebook if it was actually working for government in regard to censoring information. I want to get your take on what Senator Cruz said and talk a bit more about this dominance referring to big tech. Here's Cruz from Sunday. Watch.
Anybody in the country or anybody in the world whose statements, whose speech was censored by Facebook, if you went out and posted the facts that led a year ago to the very strong likelihood that the COVID virus escaped from a Chinese government lab in Wuhan, China, if you posted that a year ago and they took it down, I think there's a very good argument you have a cause of action against Facebook.
What do you think, Congressman?
I think Ted Cruz knows First Amendment law better than he's letting on. First couple of points, Maria. Actually, if you converted these companies to public utilities, you'd make the problem worse. Do we really want government bureaucrats making decisions on speech? The real issue is how do we get more competition? How do we get more forums? Now, I am of the view that these companies shouldn't be censoring honest debate. I had said that they shouldn't have taken down emails about the laptop concerning President Biden. I certainly think they should allow for speech that is about the origin of coronavirus. That's within the realm of debate. But they get to make certain decisions. If tomorrow you decided, I never want to have Roe on my show again, I can't sue Fox News and say, no, 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 I need to be on the show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess there's got to be some agreement on, how big is too big, right? Do you think this is ever going to come to a head in the House or the Senate about these companies that are able to, close off information to a big population of people? Their audiences are tremendous, bigger than many of the networks or the traditional places that people were getting their information.
Here's the honest challenge that they have. When they don't take down posts, they get criticized because there is violence on there or there are issues there that people say you have to take it down. And then when they do take down posts, they get criticized. So the question is, can Congress come up with some regulatory guidelines? I believe the biggest thing we could do is have more competition. I mean, the reason cable news works in part is if I don't get on Fox, I can go on 5 other places. And we need more competition in the social media network.
Well, that's what you really want to see, right? You just want to see the markets take over and competition as opposed to big government take over. All right, let me switch gears real quick before you go, Congressman, and I want to ask you about the negotiations with Republicans on the president's massive spending bill. The negotiations are off now. The House Problem Solvers Caucus releasing its own plan. Why would President Biden walk away from a $1 trillion plan?
Well, it wasn't a $1 trillion plan. The president has said $2.3 trillion increase, and the senators have called for a $300 billion increase. A lot of it was existing spending. That said, I think they're engaged in good faith. But here is the honest dispute which is going on. The Democrats believe that we ought to be taxing the wealthy more, and they don't want to raise taxes. Just yesterday, you had a report that most of the wealthy aren't paying appropriate taxes. Audit them, tax them more, pay for infrastructure. That's really what this debate comes down to.
Yeah, I want to work more on that ProPublica leak about those taxes, because it is apples and oranges. You're talking about wealth versus income, but we'll get into that later on in the show. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you, sir.
Always a joy.
Khanna joining.